with your hosts, JC Cornell and Samer Ali.
Welcome to Fully Loaded. This is your host, JC Cornell, with Samer Ali. As always, Samer, we're getting close to the regular season. I was watching on Bucs Social. They put Tristan Wirfs mic'd up. Before we get into things, I want to bring this up and get your reaction. KJ Britt, I don't know if you saw him on the field against that's the Jaguars in practice, but he chested up Trevor Lawrence, and Tristan Wirfs' quote was, "KJ just chested up Trevor." KJ is a freaking psycho, dude. I love KJ Britt.
I like that energy, man. Like everyone said, oh, if we lose Devin White, you're going to lose, that tenacious, JPP type of approach that he had, even though it didn't always translate statistically. But dude, you got KJ Britt. Apparently he's talking shit to everybody. And like bark bigger than the bite, maybe. I'm all for it, dude. Chip on the shoulder. Didn't get a chance. He's like a louder, meaner Baker Mayfield on the other side of the ball. I fucking love it, dude. The more fights he gets in, the more I become a fan. Like, I'm eventually going to have a 52 in the man cave here.
Well, Samurai, we're going to jump into our first topic. And, this is something I put on Twitter quite a bit, and I've been very vocal about it. Should the Bucs trade for Haason Reddick? Guy's had 4 straight years of double-digit sacks. He's been a solid player. He's in a position where he just got traded to the Jets. The Jets are not giving him an extension. He's almost turning 30 years old. He wants the stability for his family. He just wants to make a paycheck, really. And I think he could be a huge piece for Tampa.
So initially, I'm not a fan, only because he gets to a new team and he immediately starts, making an issue. But as I read more and more about it, it ended up being one of those things where I guess there was some sort of miscommunication, whereas like they thought he was coming to play on the deal he already had. And I guess his side's like, no, we're not playing. That's why we wanted out of Philadelphia. All these things. If there's a way to bring him in, kind of like how we brought in JPP, and if the Bucs really do think that this is a team that can like compete, and like you're one piece away, let's try to maximize this window, and we can pay him. I mean, I'm not going to hate it. I don't know if it'll happen in the offseason, but maybe it's something that happens around trade deadline when like things have just like expired between him and the Jets, and there's just no end in sight that's going to be amicable for both sides other than trading him. And I think you get a really good value at that point too. We've seen tons of teams do that and bring in a guy who they kind of help, cement things as they kind of get into the playoffs and whatnot. You can't have that. You can't have too many, right?
My take on it, so the Eagles got rid of him because they're loaded at outside linebacker. They have plenty of pass rushers. They don't need Haason Reddick anymore, and they don't need to pay him. They have the guys on rookie deals and whatnot. Nolan Smith from last year is going to be a stud. So they trade him to the Jets, and I think the miscommunication was the Jets had said, they plan on re-signing him and signing him long-term and giving him that money. And when he got there's just no conversation whatsoever. So, for me, I don't blame a guy for holding out. People are like, well, he's going out of the country on vacation, not showing up to the OTAs. Well, why would he if he got traded to a team that I guess said that they were going to pay the guy?
It makes sense.
And they traded him to the Jets for a 3rd-round pick that could turn into a 2nd with certain production. If Haason Reddick's not going to play for the Jets and hold out, I mean, if Jason could make a move, 4th-round pick, he values his picks. A 3rd-round pick is very valuable for Jason. Like, he gets studs in the draft. Yeah. The whole front office knows how to draft. He hates giving up picks. But if it's like a 4th or a 5th, it's something interesting to monitor. Something I've also said, which, people might disagree with. Joe Tryon's on his last year of his contract. If there's some way you could do a little swap there where both guys are on expiring contracts and you can get like 3 solid years out of Haason Reddick, I think it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. So I was going to ask what the compensation would be to send up there, I think, a 4th rounder and maybe JTS. And then the Jets get an extra pass rusher. Obviously, he's not Reddick, but you get a pass rusher who's clearly cool playing on the last deal of his contract and seeing what happens, right? So it feels like that could be a move. Will the Jets want to add a guy like that who doesn't really have the productivity even close to that, Reddick? I don't know. But if it's a 4th round pick and you guys can strike a deal, if you're the Jason Light and the boys and the girls, you got to pull it in my opinion. I think because you bring in a piece like that, whether JTS is here or not, he's obviously going to be playing. And he would make this an impossible defensive line to block. If Yaya continues his trajectory from last year, you've got Kalijah Cansey, who's going to have an entire year of training camp for the first time ever, an entire offseason, an entire, he understands what the NFL is like, and now going into second year, and we talked to him at training camp. He's hungry as fuck. You got Vita Vea, who's going to play more than he played last year. You add Reddick to that, dude. I don't even know how you're going to block any. Like, you double team any of them, the other 3 are going to eat. So it makes sense.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you can have Yaya starting opposite Haason Reddick, and then you can bring in Broswell. You can bring in Anthony Nelson if Jose Ramirez makes this roster after having that 3-sack game. I mean, that could be a crazy rotation where you don't have to keep these guys all on the field. You can keep switching them out, keeping them fresh. It would be a nasty attack. I mean, you could argue Haason Reddick could be that missing final piece that could really make this team a Super Bowl contender.
It depends how they're looking at it too, man. If they're looking at it like we're maybe a year away, I don't know. If they're looking at it like, let's just do it now. That's why I feel like it's more going to be like a trade deadline type of scenario, because then you kind of understand what your team is like. You kind of know, but at that point, if JTS is going to pan out or not, if they do it now, they would just have to basically be openly admitting that, the JTS experiment is over and they have to give up on it, which is fine. I'm cool with that. You can pull the Band-Aid anytime you need to. I totally get that. I trust Jason on that. And
there's also this aspect to Haason Reddick. They got a guy in the building that's occasionally there in Bruce Arians that drafted Haason Reddick on the Cardinals in the first round. So clearly Bruce did his research on this guy. If you're saying there's something wrong, behind the scenes or off the field, I think Bruce would be able to tell Jason pretty clearly what you're getting in this guy as a person and as a player.
Yeah, I'm curious if there is anything other than just the contract issue. Initially, I was thinking, man, this guy's already making waves. Like, he just changed his mind. And then you read into it, like I said earlier, and it's just like, I think it's some sort of miscommunication between his team and the Jets. And I don't think it's a cancer in the locker room type of issue. But you got to be sure also that you're not bringing in somebody that's going to be another Devin White in terms of the complaints and, that fracturing that he could possibly cause. But again, you could also look at the other side of that. JC's like, this locker room is so tight. You can insert a guy like an Antonio Brown like we did, and it's okay. They will continue to hold him to the fire of how they've set the standards and what that bar is in that locker room, and not allow him to fester and create, a cancer type of environment. But it all depends on how they look at things, man. And I'm curious if Todd Bowles was the defensive coordinator when Bruce Arians drafted him.
He was already at the Jets when. Yeah.
Okay, so he was already a Jet.
No,
so,
I just I think it's something to monitor for fans and just to think about. There's a lot of people that don't want that to happen, and that's fine. I do want to move on to our next topic, and that's basically preseason standouts. Right now, for me, Elijah Klein's getting a lot of hype on social media from offensive line gurus, experts talking about how physical and how dominant he's been in these games. And kudos once again to the free agent or the front office and all of them finding this guy in the 6th round. And, he might not start day one, but he has the potential to eventually start at left guard for this team. And this offensive line that Jason's built, even after Ali Marpet left, Jensen got the season ending or the career ending injury. I mean, we've already built this thing to be almost a powerhouse. It's going to be a top 5 offensive line in the league. And on top of that, you got Graham Barton as the 1st round pick. I mean, what they've done with this line, they're going to just absolutely maul people.
They have the potential, whether it's this year at some point or at the beginning of next year, to have an entire offensive line that they built completely through the draft, which is like almost unheard of. And all of them other than Tristan would basically be on their rookie deals. I feel like they'll probably start talking to Luke because they don't know, they don't want that to get out of hand sooner, later on if he continues his trajectory. But dude, that's pretty fucking wild for a Bucs fan to see that. Like, we've always had the revolving door of left tackles and right tackles, and the guys that are always guard. We sometimes have a good center here, or we'll have, Davin Joseph for a little bit. We'll have Donald Penn, and then everything else is absolute garbage around him. But now all 5 of these dudes are studs, and this kid's in the 6th round. And we talked about him during the draft shows that we did. I didn't think he was even going to flash in preseason, dude. I mean, they were out balding or freaking doing videos about the kid playing at a pro level. And obviously, grain of salt, preseason, backups, this and that. But man, if he gets it and it clicks, man. And that's no disrespect to Bredesen, by the way, who, in my opinion, I haven't had to say his name, so he's done his job, which has been a surprise. So that's really a good thing going into the season. But I love Klein, dude. It's so ridiculous. We talked about him too on the Loose Cannon, Stank and I. Another guy who's standing out. Obviously, we talked a lot about this kid, Bucky Irving, dude. He is so fun to watch play football. It's going to be impossible to keep him off the field for Liam. I don't think he's going to eat into a massive chunk of what Rashad's going to do in terms of the carries and whatnot. But if they sprinkle him in the right way and they utilize him like Sean McVay does in LA with the weapons he has, man, that's going to be hard to stop, man, especially if we run block the way we've been so far.
And it's funny because it's exactly his scouting report coming out of Oregon. It makes everyone miss. Everyone's missing on him. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him in the goal line quite a bit, getting those goal line touches, because he can make that first guy miss here in the end zone. So we'll see what happens with that. I do think it could be like a 60-40 timeshare. But this is what I want to talk about. My other standout is Sean Tucker. Tucker has looked unbelievable. This is the guy that we were all expecting last year to immediately contribute. We saw his tape, how powerful he is. He's a big dude, and he just kind of disappeared off the scene. And then he's come back. He put in a lot of work in the offseason. He's crushing it in these preseason games. We'll see if he gets some reps on this offense as well. I mean, it's fun to have a 3-headed monster. Having 3 legit guys that you're confident in carrying the ball, that's a huge advantage for us. And I don't think we've been able to say that as Bucs fans for a long time, that we've had this kind of stable of horses in our backfield.
I mean, maybe going back to work done, Mike Allstott was the best, kind of like.
Yeah, that's what I said too. Yeah.
Maybe Ernest Graham and Cadillac had that little bit of an overlap. But the one thing I'll say about those 2 guys is I wonder how far along they are in blitz pickup and pass pro, which is the biggest thing. Rashad talks about it all the time. He said his first thing he ever worked on as an NFL player, once he goes drafted, he's like, that's the one thing I got to work on. And when we talked to him about, Bucky and Sean, he said they got to work on that. Like, he was pretty, not to, talk badly about his teammates, but he was saying that's something that rookie running backs got to work on. And you just paid Baker a nice chunk of money. I think you want to make sure that whoever's next to him in that shotgun stance is going to know how to pick up that blitz. So I would look at that as the ramp up, to possibly having that, 70-30 split between Bucky and Rashad, or 60-40. I just don't anticipate having that start off that way, just because I don't know how much they're going to be able to trust that guy. Sean Tucker as well, even as a second-year guy, because it takes actual real fire bullets and reps for that to really sink in properly. But I think if he gets his chance, he picks up a couple like that, and Baker starts to trust him and Liam starts to trust him, then yeah, man, then you can sprinkle him in and not have it be so predictable as to when he's in the game, he's going to be a screen pass, this and that. You talked about goal line too, and I didn't want to cut you off, but dude, he's also not afraid of just running you over. He looks for contact. It reminds me a lot of Dunn, but Dunn used to kind of look for it so he could bounce off of you. This kid's got a little bit of Maurice Jones-Drew in him. He just wants to run you over. He's not built that way, but he does it, man. And he's got a little joystick in there, man. It's fun to watch him play, and he reminds me so much of Work Done. It's crazy because he's also hiding.
All these guys we're talking about right now, this Dolphins game is going to be very important. What I'd love to see is Elijah Klein get some reps against the Dolphins starters. Just to see, can he handle the starters in the NFL as a 6th-round pick? And if he can, it makes it very interesting to see if he plugs in at left guard. Last guy, it's pretty obvious, Jose Ramirez having 3 sacks against the Jaguars. That's, that might have just solidified him getting that roster spot at offensive or outside linebacker. Impressive dude. You can tell when he's in the press conferences and he's speaking, he really values hard work, and he wants to make this team, and the ceilings, he's not hit his ceiling yet. He feels like he really can be a contributor in the NFL.
Yeah, it's fun to see him get his chance and capitalize, take it from, last year's camp, going into, joint practices this past week with the Jaguars. He shined there, and then to take it to the game. And a couple of them were cheap sacks, but he's putting pressure on, man, which is crazy. And Chris Braswell's right next to him doing the same thing. But to see Ramirez come in there and he can contribute anything from 1 to 3 sacks in the season as a rotational piece, Anthony Nelson type of guy, that's awesome. Another guy that maybe his stats don't flash as much. I think he was the leading or second leading tackler in the first preseason game, but Tyke Smith, man, looks really comfortable. He's getting used a little bit exotically. It's not Todd calling the defense, but you saw him coming in on that blitz. He gets after the quarterback. He's made some really sound tackles in open space in the first couple games so far. He's going to be a weapon, man. And whether they use Izzy and more in terms of the slot and things of that nature or back in safety, Tyke can do a lot of things. And if you can insert him in scenarios, you could put some packages together where you got 3, possibly 4 safety type guys on the field, or guys who could also play linebacker at the same time between him, Jordan Whitehead, Antoine. I mean, dude, it's going to be hard to get mismatches with tight ends and running backs when you got these athletic dudes that he could just plug in for Todd Bowles like that. I mean, it's going to be fun. And Tyke has just been, it's been refreshing to see, transition from college to the NFL in the preseason. Obviously, again, grain of salt, but he hasn't looked like a rookie, which is important to me. And then that's crazy. With
Tyke, I look at him just like when Winfield was a rookie. They already look like they're vets, man. They pick things up so quick. They're just so well coached in college, and obviously Winfield had his dad growing up watching his dad play. But Tyke coming from Georgia, he looks like these Georgia, Alabama guys. It's almost like they're already playing in the NFL with the rosters that they have on these teams, and he's going to be polished. I don't think there's like any rookie growing up to do. I think he comes in just playing like a pro.
That's because if you're at Georgia or Alabama, JC, you don't have a choice to not work hard. And if you don't work hard, you're probably transferring out because you're not getting to play, or they're telling you to kick rocks. But like, you go to those schools, you work hard. So when you come in the NFL, it's like, all right, just business as usual, I guess. I'm just learning a new playbook, and he looks ready, dude. And he's going to have some growing pains. Don't get me wrong. Ronnie Barber had growing pains. Every one of these guys has growing pains. Antoine maybe didn't, but he had a couple plays probably he missed. But Tyke getting sprinkled in and put in situations where he's comfortable, and Todd understanding how to utilize his skills and talents and being able to use him as his jack of all trades, his Swiss Army knife. It's going to be fun, man. It's going to be really fun. This draft class could go down at some point as one of the best in Buccaneers history, which is crazy considering we have 2 drafts so far under our belt that have been 2 Hall of Famers in the same class with Derek Brooks, Warren Sapp, and I think Antoine Winfield and Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah, take this with a grain of salt, but Tyke Smith reminds me a lot of Minkah Fitzpatrick, the way Minkah was used at Alabama. I think Tyke can do the same thing. If he needs to be playing in the slot, he can play in the slot. If you need to put him at safety, God forbid an injury back there, he's plugging in right away, no problem. Official, Graham Barton is our starting center. I think that was, kind of obvious with his pedigree coming out of the draft, how physical he is, and the reps he's had in the preseason, just pushing people around. I know we talked about in the prior show, does he have that nasty in him? It sure seems like he can get in the nitty gritty, and he's physical, man. I'm excited to see him, and he's going to anchor this line for years and years and years. And it's fun to have a good offensive line. There's no more days of freaking out about Donovan Smith at left tackle, who, by the way, is still not on an NFL team. So, we got a really solid group of guys there, and it's just going to be fun to watch this running game really evolve. And people are, hyping up the Falcons making the moves for Justin Simmons and Matt Judon to help that defense. But the reality is that Falcons defensive line is not good. It's weak, and our offensive line is going to open the biggest gaping holes for our running backs to run all over the place, all over them. We will control Sean McVay. I'm already saying Liam Cohen is going to have a field day calling plays against the Falcons.
Well, I mean, if you have one clear-cut pass rusher opposing you as opposed to an entire defensive line of talent, yeah, I mean, you should be able to figure that out. And Tristan Wirfs was on the SiriusXM NFL's training camp tour yesterday. And he spoke about how everyone else in the division had added all these pass rushers. Jadavian Clowney, I believe, went to the Carolina Panthers. You got Judon with the Falcons, and I believe the Saints added Chase Young, who, again, these names aren't crazy names, but Judon being the best of them, obviously. But Tristan responded with, listen, I face great pass rushers. These guys are good pass rushers, but he responded with he was almost like giggling. He was like, I can't wait, dude. It's going to be so much fun. I get to play against these guys twice a year. I was like, this dude is so good at his job. It's it's fun now. So he's not worried about it. I don't think guys like Luke Gedeke are also worried about it. Luke proved last year that he can handle a premier pass rusher. And so now you got 2 tackles, one on either end that can do that and take care. You can add as many pass rushers as you want until you got an entire defensive line of monstrous talent. Then you know what? I'm going to bet on the Bucs offensive line, even with Bredesen and even if Klein does play. But going back to Graham Barton, I think they didn't expect him to adjust because he played center at Duke so long ago. I don't think they expected him to adjust so quickly, so they didn't want to put the pressure on him from day one of you are the starter. They just kind of let him grow into it. He proved himself. You're going to see Bob Hennessy be the backup, which is a great thing. You got a veteran who's done it. He's seen it. He knows what Baker likes, doesn't like. He's going to be behind him. He'll be able to guide him if things go wrong or, when he sees things he doesn't recognize. But kid's from Duke. He's smart. He's getting caught up on the playbook. He talked about that was kind of the one thing he really has to work on is just getting that playbook down. That's really it. And he's just adjusted so quickly. And now you get to see him get first team reps moving forward. Getting ready for the first week of the season. The only thing I think is really funny about him, I think he has a potential to play like Jensen, but him and Jensen are so different personality-wise off the field. He's so clean-cut Captain America.
Yeah, he's kind of goofy.
Yeah, Midwestern, real good kid. And then you got Jensen who's grown up in the forest, hunting deer,
chopping wood.
Yeah, chopping wood. He probably wrestled a bear or two in his day. It's just completely different, but they could play the same, which is insane. So it's cool. And then seeing him against the Bengals, he got dirty. So that's what I wanted to see, and that was awesome.
Something I saw on Twitter, I forget if it was Baldinger or Brandon Thorne or one of these offensive line guys. They said his tape so far in the preseason at center. His tape was already so good at left tackle at Duke this past year, but his tape at center already is such an improvement over his left tackle tape. And we're talking about a guy that was graded, supposed to be a top 10 pick, somehow fell to us. And already his tape is looking that much better at center. We're in a very good position right now with Graham Barton.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. He's going to now have the ability to focus and study and work with Baker and work with the guys next to him for the next 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever that number is for the first game. That's important, dude. That's the one thing that makes the offensive line work really well is that silent communication that they all have. And he's going to be a loud communicator because he's making the line calls. Him and Baker are going to work hand in hand. And for them to now know who that guy is, it's going to be awesome. And he, like I said, he's from Duke. He's smart. He's going to pick it up. He'll have some growing pains too. He's a rookie, but man, he gets it and he starts rolling like we saw Tristan and we saw Luke had his lumps, but once we got him in the right spot, he got going. Cody Mock eventually got going. It's I don't want to say business as usual for Jason Light and the boys, but it is, dude. Offensive line is what he knows, dude. It's so cool to see, man, because that's where you build winners. The trenches on both sides of the ball. I've been saying this for years. I'm glad we have it finally, man.
So we're moving on to the Dolphins game this Friday night at 7:30. Starters are going to play. So this is going to be definitely the most watched preseason game for the Bucs, for fans and everything. It's going to be fun to see how they match up to a Miami team that's a very talented offense, has a good defense. They have good pieces. They're a very solid team. And I want to see how Baker does against the Dolphins defense and how, Barton's his first start against starters and see how these guys really perform against a good NFL team.
Yeah, I think they're going to probably go in with the mindset this is a regular season game. They're probably going to script, the first drive or 12 plays, whatever they do. I want to see them execute that script. I want to see them go up and down the field, do what they're supposed to do, convert third downs if they come up on third downs and move the ball, be efficient, not look like they're, having communication issues or look confused. It's kind of a new offense, but it's also not. So And again, to see Liam Cohen also beyond that first drive make play calls and see how he schemes and adjusts to things that the defense might change after that first drive. So I think 2 drives is all I want to see, but I want to see them, be efficient with those. I want to see the run game with the entire starting unit, and I want to see Rashad in that starting unit, because I'm sure Rashad's been watching what's going on and thinking, man, I cannot wait. This looks ridiculously fun, and these guys are doing it behind the backups. I cannot wait. So that's going to be the fun thing to watch. So running game and execution is the 2 things I'm looking for.
I think the biggest concern I've seen from fans and analysts on Twitter and social media is the secondary. So what better test than Tyreek Hill and Cheetah and Jalen Waddle? I don't know if Waddle's hurt or not. He's always hurt. But see how our guys match up to them. Big year for Jamel Dean, huge year for Zion McCollum to prove that he can replace Carlton Davis, and we'll see what happens. Clearly, the Bucs, Jason Light, Todd Bowles feel comfortable with their secondary right now, because they could have made a move and added a guy. There's some Gilmore was out there, and there's different guys that they could have added, but it seems like they have trust in Zion. Zion's an extremely athletic guy. I think this is he was a project pick when we got him, and he was a project, and he's learning and he's getting better. He's very fast. So it's going to be a test to see how they play against 2 really good wide receivers before we face the Commanders week 1.
Yeah. I'm curious if Jordan Whitehead's going to play. I don't think he will, just so they have him ready for week 1. But I definitely want to see the communication amongst that entire secondary, that group of guys, see how they talk, see how they communicate. It'd be interesting to see who they put back there next to Antoine at safety. Whether that'll be Izzian, whether that'll be maybe a little bit of Tyke sprinkled in there. I don't think they're going to Merriweather. I don't know if how he's doing with his injury. Yeah. So I don't think they're going to tip their hand in terms of the exotic stuff with Tyke and things of that nature. So I don't think he'd be the guy back there, but I just want to see that communication doesn't look like there's busted coverages left and right, because that's always been the thing that Todd's talked about. And it felt like last year, one specific person in that secondary, the safety, was always the one that kind of broke down, whether it was communication or understanding or hearing things properly or understanding what that communication was. So we'll see. Obviously, Jordan Whitehead and Antoine play together, so that's going to be more solid. But I don't anticipate those 2 playing together this week. But let's see, man. I want to see Zion out there. People talked a lot of shit about the kid. He seems pretty damn confident in himself. The Bucs are confident in him, like you talked about. And I think they're really confident, too. It talks about how confident they are in Bryce Hall, the guy that they got from the Jets, who has played well so far in the preseason, honestly.
Yeah, the pick taken back.
Yeah, and it feels like he's not in the wrong place. I don't like what I've seen so far from Thomas, the guy they picked up from the Texans. So, 1 for 2, it's fine. But you have Hall back there who can slide in. You have Izzian. You have Tyke Smith. These guys are all multiple back there. So against the Dolphins, I just want to see that in the pass rush kind of paired together and see if they work well. And, it'd be fun to see. It'll be fun to see all these guys playing together. Obviously, Yaya's not going to be out there too. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's what my next point was going to be. We started out the show talking about Haason Reddick. Well, this is a huge game for Broswell. This is a huge game for Nelson. All these guys need to prove that, they can be effective, and they don't need a guy like Haason Reddick to take away their reps. You know what I mean? Let's prove to Jason and prove to Todd that we're okay at outside linebacker. And, if it's not a good performance, then maybe this is when you start thinking about making a move for Haason Reddick.
Yeah, the thing is, too, think about it. You got Kalajic inside. You got Vita. You're going to have Yaya. But even just the 2 guys in the middle, those guys are going to make everybody else better. They're just going to take up so much attention. And now that Vita is going to be a little bit slimmer, I think a little bit more, he's not going to have a fatigue issue. You're going to see him on the field a lot more. And him next to Cansey is just going to be ridiculously difficult to block for most offensive lines, if not all offensive lines. And then at that point, the guys on the outside just got to finish the job, man. That's been JTS's biggest issue. It's not even about him getting there and causing pressures. It's finish the job, dude. Finish the tackle. Chris Braswell's going to have a chance to take that kid's job if he's able to do that, if he's able to adjust and get up to speed to a certain point. Obviously, Anthony Nelson, I'm a fan of his. He's made plays ever since he's been here. It's just he doesn't look flashy. He doesn't look great. He doesn't dance too well probably after a sack, whatever it is. But he finishes when he has a chance. So I think if those guys can all work as a group, I think that's really the approach they would take. But if it all looks like a complete failure, I'm with you. Then we back to that Reddick conversation.
It's also interesting to see that Anthony Nelson said he's learning things from Chris Broswell. We just talked about guys from Alabama, guys from Georgia. Broswell comes from Alabama. Very well coached. You know, he's a Saban guy. He's one of those guys that kind of plugs into an NFL roster. They're not nervous about anything. They're not scared. They're just solid players, and the moment's not too big for them. So it's going to be exciting to see this Dolphins game.
How is he learning from a rookie?
Dude, I don't know.
Did he give any explanation to that?
No, I don't have the full details on what exactly Chris Broswell is teaching Anthony Nelson now.
Anthony and him are kind of built differently. They seem to approach it differently. The Anthony's been solid, dude. He reminds me a lot of Greg Spires. I've said that a couple of times. He just does his job. I've also said KJ Britt is one of those guys. He just does his job. He's not trying to be Derek Brooks. He just has to do his job. He's next to, Derek Brooks 2.0 for the most part. So with Levante. So that's another thing too. We get to see Levante, which I don't think he should play in preseason games, but you got to shake some of that rust off. And the Chiefs, they've been doing it forever with their starters. So I don't know if it even matters all that much, but it is what it is. It's fine. But that, again, the defense, all of them communicating, talking, and then I think the offense for me, man, as a whole is going to be the one thing I cannot wait to see, because I'm really excited about what this is going to be with a more competent play caller, a more, I guess, football understanding schematically play caller at the helm, and a guy who's going to be able to put us in situations where we aren't as predictable as what we were with Dave.
So for, our listeners out there, we have a live show on Friday at 6:30 p.m. at the Hooters located in Sarasota, Florida, off of Clark Road. We will be doing a live show. It's going to be fun. We have some special guests, special people coming, special giveaways as well. We're going to have a fun interactive time with all the people that show up at Hooters. And I will give away the biggest prize we're giving away is free wings for a year. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, a gift card is going to go out to somebody in that restaurant that will give them wings for free for an entire year. As long as you don't use ranch, obviously. That's kind of be a stipulation. But yeah,
free blue cheese that goes with it.
Yeah, why? I would show up daily just to get the blue cheese, honestly. Just and let me get a shot of blue cheese. I got a meeting down the street from here. But yeah, that's pretty dope. Yeah, Hooters going to be fun. Have some, like JC said, some special guests. We'll have some reverse brand merch in the house that we're going to be giving away. We'll do some giveaways. We'll do some trivia. We'll have Stank walking around.
Oh, wait, let's not forget Omni Energy is going to be there giving out energy drinks. The Omni girls will be giving out. We don't know if we can say whether they're giving out mixed shots with the energy drinks. We're still working on that. But regardless, Omni's going to be there, full presence, and it's going to be a fun time. You guys should come check us out. And this could be something that we do hopefully in Tampa, at a Hooters location in Tampa as well. But right now, our first one. So if you're local to Sarasota, or if you want to make that hour drive down to Hooters and check us out, it's going to be a great time. And we're going to have a lot of fun with it.
Absolutely, man. Cannot wait. To be a solid way to watch a football game.
Yeah, we're gonna sign off. You can follow us on Twitter at Fully Loaded Bucs. And I'm so bad. Why am I so bad at this? Can we talk about this for a second? I'm the worst sign off guy. It's kind of embarrassing.
On loose cannons, I just say go Bucs and I just hang up. I don't even do any of this.
You know where to follow us. We'll talk to you soon. Go Bucs.
There it is.